7 years ago, on the day everything went to absolute shit. The world was just doing its normal beep beep bustle, people laughing, living their basic NPC lives, when reality suddenly got drop kicked by something called the dungeon break. And monsters came pouring out like the universe clicked hard mode without asking. In the chaos that followed, countless people died screaming for help, trampled under panic, ripped apart by monsters. And among all those bodies were the parents of this one kid who would never be the same again. Our boy lost everything in the blink of an eye that day, and through what felt like tears of blood, he swore to himself that he'd become a hunter and one day tear apart the monsters that ruined his world. Fast forward 7 years after that great calamity, and now he's standing in a memorial park. Not as some badass hunter, but as a guy who just got kicked out of his hunter training gym, cursing under his breath because life is still dunking on him. We take a quick rewind, as the coach calls him in and says his name with that serious voice people use when they're about to ruin your day, promising to cut right to the chase. He tells our guy they don't want him coming to the gym anymore, basically banning him from the only place he's been grinding at for years. Our boy is stunned, stammering that this is so sudden and demanding to know why they want him to leave after everything. The coach sighs and says he'll be honest, explaining that most people who awaken get some training for a few months at a hunter gym and then debut as proper hunters. He adds that's how it goes for most normal people, that is, just to twist the knife a bit. The problem, the coach says, is that it's already been 7 years since our boy started training with them, and he still hasn't debuted, which is just embarrassing for everyone involved. He decides to give it to him straight and tells him he doesn't have a hope in hell of becoming a hunter, flat out calling him trash like he's taking out the emotional garbage. He says if they let our boy keep training there, people will start thinking the gym itself is trash too, so they're cutting him off to protect their brand, not his dreams. Off to the side, other trainees snicker while watching the scene, saying he's got serious gumption for showing up at the crack of dawn every day to train, but calling it a shame with that fake sympathy tone. Then they twist it further, laughing that it's not a shame, it's sheer stupidity to cling to a pipe dream like that after all this time. They joke that his stats are literally still exactly the same after 7 years of training, like he's a bugged character stuck at level 1 while everyone else patched and moved on. Back in the present, our bro points out he hasn't unlocked any innate traits, hasn't learned any new skills, nothing, and it's like his body refuses to budge no matter how much effort he puts in. Meanwhile, our boy is trembling, asking himself how the hell it's possible for his stats not to have improved at all after 7 damn years. Just then, right behind him, we see a mother asking her daughter if she remembers how daddy passed away, her voice soft but heavy. She remembers being a kid, saying yeah, she remembered, answering her like an eager child. The little girl eagerly explained that her father had been very brave when the monsters attacked, standing his ground and helping as many people as he could until the very end. Then she asked if the little girl remembered what they were supposed to do when life got hard, trying to pass on that mental buff. She answered that they were supposed to be brave, stumbling a bit and then remembering they should never give up, and hearing those words lights a fire in our boy's heart. She praised her daughter, calling her an Ata girl type of kid energy, giving her that little hop of encouragement parents do when they're trying to keep it together. Then our bro just stand up and bows down to them, leaving them confused, just before sprinting away like a weirdo. Back in the present, he clenches inside and reminds himself he's been hanging on for 7 years already. He tells himself he can't give up now, not after everything, not after swearing revenge and grinding this long. In fact, he declares internally that he'll never give up, even as the world rumbles and his situation looks hopeless. He slams his fists in frustration, banging away at the door to the gym like he's trying to punch his way into a future that keeps telling him no. But after all that banging, the door finally creaks open, and the coach appears again, asking what our boy is doing there like he's an annoying stray that wandered back. Our guy bows his head slightly and begs, calling him coach and asking for one last chance to take the hunter test. He says he can't just give up now and that if he at least gets one more shot, he might prove everyone wrong, his desperation practically bleeding out of him. The coach's patience snaps and he tells him to listen up, calling him a fucking punk and saying he clearly doesn't understand what's being said. He asks if our boy is hung up about all the money he wasted on membership fees and training. Like this is just about a financial scam and not the guy's whole life. Then he says, fine, asshole. He'll refund half the membership fees, throwing that out there like hush money, and asks if that makes him happy now. Our boy tries to protest, stuttering that that's not what this is about. But our bro catches a slap to the face. The coach jabs him, literally poking him physically as if to mock him further, saying it's always about the money in the end. He tells him to just accept reality, saying again that he's trash, and slams the door shut on his face, cutting him off from the gym entirely. Left alone, our boy wishes quietly that he at least had an innate trait of his own, something to justify his stubbornness. Or, at the very least, he wishes he had any talent for this hunter stuff at all, instead of being a walking tutorial failure. Then out of nowhere, something shifts. There's a swish in the air and a strange message appears, as if the universe itself just slid into his D-Miz. The message says the Tower of Trials applauds his iron will, which is both flattering and ominous as hell. He blinks and asks what the hell it means, wondering if it's talking about his iron will as in his refusal to give up despite everything. He asks what this is, confused as the situation suddenly goes from sad gym dropout to cosmic event. Water suddenly splashes over him or something pulls at him, making him yell out in shock. He sputters and asks what the hell is happening as his surroundings change in an instant. From far away, our bro nearby is shouting for help as he's getting kidnapped by water. Without warning, the coach bursts through the door yelling that that's enough and calling our bro an asshole. The coach tells the MC to get lost already and tries to blow him off, but of course our guy is nowhere to be seen. He turns with an annoyed huff, saying good riddance and assuming he's gone, thinking the problem has literally just disappeared. Meanwhile, fighting for his life, our boy is now somewhere else, choking and thinking he can't breathe, struggling against this sudden pressure. He lets out a strangled cry as something engulfs him, and then everything explodes into a bright, overwhelming force. A voice announces that the Tower of Trials has selected all worthy challengers across planet Earth, which is one hell of a global recruitment strategy. He repeats the name Tower of Trials in his head and wonders if this is another great calamity, some kind of sequel to the Dungeon Break. A chime sounds and another prompt appears, telling him to select a difficulty level. It adds that the rewards he'll receive will increase with the difficulty level, which is code for you want good loot, pick pain. He admits he has no idea what's happening. But despite that, his instincts are screaming at him. He sees the options easy, normal, hard, and his gut tells him one thing: seize this opportunity. He hits the hardest path like a madman chasing dignity, pressing hard mode because subtlety is for people who didn't just get called trash for 7 years. The system wishes him satisfaction at the end of his journey in that creepy polite way, which sounds both nice and like a warning. It tells him that in a moment he will be entering level 1 of the Tower of Trials, like the game has just properly started. Energy buzzes around him, healing all his ailments and injuries in an instant, like he just cashed in a full heal cheat code. Then he's told he is now entering the Tower of Trials, level 1, and that he should begin preparing for the imminent trial. The world around him shifts with a swoosh and electrical buzz as he's fully transported. He looks around and stammers, wondering where this giant desert came from, because 5 seconds ago he definitely wasn't in a sandy wasteland. Another notification hits, saying a weapon is being issued, and the air crackles as something appears. A sword materializes with a sharp sheath, a basic but vital tool for surviving whatever's coming next. The system announces that the theme of this trial is survival, which is always a fun word to hear paired with tutorial. It adds that the trial clearance reward is an innate trait unlocked, which hits our boy like a lightning bolt of hope. He remembers how he gave his heart and soul to training for the last 7 years. Now he's finally within reach of unlocking an innate trait, something he's wished for all this time. His heart keeps hammering in disbelief, because he can't believe this is actually happening. He tells himself he'd better grab that sword, stepping toward it with purpose. But as soon as he grips it, his hand shakes and he nearly loses his balance, surprised by everything. The ground suddenly rumbles, and he instinctively starts sprinting as something huge approaches. He turns and sees a massive shape forming, stuttering in panic as he asks what the hell that thing is. The system calmly announces that the tutorial trial has commenced, like this is all part of a perfectly normal onboarding process. Then it clarifies his life choices by displaying that the Tower of Trials, difficulty selected, hard, has summoned a sand golem. The entire desert shakes as the golem rises, each rumble mocking his decision. He screams internally, asking if this is some kind of joke, because this is insane for a first round. The prompt explains he must survive against the sand golem until the time limit is up. A ticking clock appears, showing that there are 10 minutes, minus a bit, remaining as the first seconds vanish. The golem roars and he panics, yelling crap as he dashes away as fast as his legs can carry him. He collides and clashes with the sand, maybe even stumbles, a chime sounding as his struggle is registered. He groans in pain, feeling just how real this trial is. Then another prompt pops up, penalty for trial failure, death, which is not exactly the kind of try again later system he was hoping for. He asks himself how he's supposed to outrun a sand golem, glancing back at the hulking thing chasing him. He keeps running, noticing that the golem looks slow, but because its strides are huge, it's closing the distance fast even at that lumbering pace. On top of that, the desert sand under his feet is making every step harder, eating his stamina like a buffed. He realizes there is no way he can keep running for 9 whole minutes on this terrain without collapsing. He complains that they told him to survive, But all they gave him is this lousy sword like it's a participation trophy. He pants and says they're obviously setting him up to fail, because this setup screams RIP not tutorial. He reasons bitterly that either he dies running away or he dies standing his ground. So those are his cursed options. He slams his feet into the sand in frustration and yells in pain and determination. He curses, saying shit, and wonders how he's supposed to fight something that huge and solid. Old echoes of mockery ring in his head. Shame, my ass, followed by snickers about his so-called stupidity. He remembers people saying it's sheer stupidity to cling to a pipe dream like his. Now instead of a sand golem, our guy is thrust into Attack on Titan with an abnormal Titan running at him. He hears the voice calling him completely worthless, using his full name like a curse. The ground rumbles again and he grits his teeth, thinking if he's really just going to keep running and die a coward's death. He reminds himself he trained to be a hunter for 7 years, and he didn't do all that just to die running away from the first big enemy. He pants and thinks that in terms of knowledge, he's more well-versed in hunter theory than most active hunters out there. He decides that if running away won't help him, he needs to find some other way to survive until the timer hits 0. He recalls monster theory, remembering that creatures like golems usually deactivate if you destroy their core stone. But he admits he has no chance of reaching that core stone from where he is now, just swinging from the ground like a kid swatting a skyscraper. Even as he huffs and stomps through the sand, he realizes he needs another angle. So he sprints and decides the only way is to get the high ground, hoping anime logic will carry him. He rushes forward, kicking up sand, and then launches himself with a powerful leap. He flips through the air, whooshing up toward the golem in a desperate parkour move. He lands in a controlled skid after using the golem's body or the terrain as leverage, barely managing to stay upright. The golem crashes around him, but he's finally in position to try something risky. He leaps again and spots it. There it is, the core stone, the weak point glowing like a bullseye on this sand bastard. He hops toward it, sword ready to swing. He swings with everything he's got, convinced he's finally got the thing. But when his blade connects, there's a loud clang, and his hands throb from the impact. His heart pounds in his chest as he realizes the core is harder than he thought, and that one hit isn't enough. The golem roars in rage and he's thrown back, screaming in pain and frustration. He curses again, realizing he's in real trouble now. Still, he resolves to go for it one more time, dashing in again even though everything hurts. But the golem puts our boy's second try on hold, as he grabs our guy, making sure to crack his bones in the process. Memories of people scoffing that he's worthless and a loser echo in his head, mocking him even here. They said shame, my ass, told him to get real, and called him a loser like it was his class. He twitches as anger flares, and he mentally screams bullshit at those voices. He snarls internally, calling them assholes. Then he roars out loud for them to shut the hell up, putting everything he has into one final strike. He drives the sword in with a stab that hits perfectly. The golem's core shatters and light bursts out as the sand body collapses. The system announces that the sand golem's core stone has been destroyed. The timer still shows over 7 minutes left, meaning he didn't just survive. He finished the fight early. The tutorial trial is declared complete. And the towering mass of sand crumbles away. He stands there huffing and huffing, body shaking, and asks himself if he really just killed a sand golem. He can't quite believe it was him, this same guy the world called trash. He admits it wasn't exactly a cakewalk, but he shrugs mentally and says he'll take the win. He smirks for probably the first time in years, feeling like maybe he isn't completely hopeless. A chime rings and the tower congratulates him for completing level 1 of the tower trials. He thinks to himself that he actually made it, that he cleared the first stage. The clearance rewards roll in, saying he's been granted the privilege of unlocking an innate trait. He also receives 1,000 points as part of his reward. On top of that, the tower gives him a bonus reward, a skill called Fast, rated E. Another bonus drops an extra 500 points on top of everything else. He admits he can't even describe the feeling rushing through him right now. He thinks back to the blood, sweat, and tears he poured into training over the past 7 years. All he ever got in return before was ridicule and contempt from others instead of results. Now the system announces that it's unlocking his innate trait at last. The tower dings again and tells him it's imbuing him with an innate trait called necromancy. Grade F light flashes around him as this new power sinks into his soul. He smiles and thinks that now finally he can become a hunter too, even if his trait sounds like it belongs to a villain. The only catch is that he has to survive whatever else is coming at him in this tower first. He sighs, realizing that nothing here is going to be simple. Then he senses something shifting again and looks around as the air swirls. He asks what it is this time, already tired of surprises. He sees some kind of black fog leaking out of the dead golem's broken body. He gulps because black fog coming out of corpses is never a yay bonus loot sign in any world a ding sounds, and the system says it's activating his innate trait necromancy. Grade F then it asks if he'd like to absorb the sand golem's dead spirit, giving him a yes or no choice. He repeats the idea of absorbing its spirit in his head, wondering what exactly that means. He wonders if this fog has something to do with the necromancy trait he just unlocked. The tower repeats the offer, asking again if he wants to absorb the sand golem's dead spirit, the options yes and no hanging in front of him, and of course, our boy accepts. The fog swirls more aggressively, rushing toward him, making him shout in surprise. Then the system declares that he has absorbed the sand golem's dead spirit. It tells him his skill level has increased by 7% thanks to that absorption. He feels something smoosh or settle inside him, and asks what's going on with his body. Energy flares with it as the dead spirit fully merges with him. The tower shows that he now has 1 out of 5 dead spirits in his possession. He can feel the dead spirit inside him, like an extra presence sitting in the back of his mind, and guesses this is what happens whenever he absorbs one. He wonders how he's supposed to actually use these dead spirits, because having ghosts inside you is only cool if there's a benefit. A prompt appears saying he can permanently increase his stats using an absorbed dead spirit. The system then announces that his strength has increased by 3 points. It also announces that his stamina has increased by 2 points. He feels energy flow through him and says he can feel it. He can really feel himself becoming stronger. He realizes his stats have finally gone up for the first time ever. They never shifted at all in the 7 years he spent training like a madman. He pants and thinks he never imagined they could increase permanently like this. The tower shows him a breakdown of his innate trait necromancy, grade F, with current proficiency at 7%. The main effect says it enables the user to absorb and command the spirits of the dead as they please, which is metal as hell. The first secondary effect says he can permanently increase his stats depending on the trait grade and the condition of the dead spirit he absorbs. The second secondary effect says dead spirits can be stored and used when needed, with the storage limit depending on the trait grade. His heart pounds again and he laughs, thinking that if he makes it back home with this ability, he could actually become a hunter for real. The idea makes his heart thump with hope, because his whole life goal might finally be legit. A ding comes and the system tells him he may proceed to the lobby. He limps along, legs heavy, and thinks there's only one way to find out what happens next. We hear a thud and a clang as he collapses and drops his weapon in the lobby area. He huffs and huffs, realizing he's in worse shape than he thought, his body still wrecked from the fight. Then something swooshes and he feels drops of something, noticing something dripping. He looks down and asks what happened to his injuries. Surprised at how quickly they've gone, he wonders if this means he'll be fully healed after each trial. He looks around the enormous room and notes that it's huge, but the only thing in it is a single bed. He staggers toward it, thinking he must have lost a lot of blood, and that's why he feels so drained. He tells himself he should at least be thankful he gets a bed to rest in, considering everything. He flops onto the bed, utterly spent. He stares at the empty space and wonders what he's supposed to do now. He asks himself if he'll ever actually make it out of the tower. He also questions why they brought him here in the first place, of all people. A ding sounds and the system says he may now use 5 command prompts: information, store, community, inventory, and trials. Another message says he just has to say the command prompt out loud to launch the function. He repeats the idea of command prompts in his head, still trying to process that this whole thing is basically a sadistic UI. He slaps his cheeks and tells himself to forget overthinking and just focus on making it out alive. He calls out trials and the system responds. It shows the time remaining until trial level 2, over 23 hours. It informs him he can't commence a trial yet and that he has to stand by. He thinks to himself that of course there's another trial waiting because nothing here was going to be a one-and-done tutorial. He then calls out community and gets connected. He sees he's entered a community board linked to the hard difficulty group. The chat is scrolling with people losing their minds. Someone asks if anybody can explain what the hell is going on. Another user wonders if this is another great calamity. Someone says their stats and skills have reverted back to what they were when they first awakened and asks what they should do. Our boy looks at the screen and thinks this is like some kind of in-game social media system. He sees the is in total chaos, with people freaking out and asking questions. Stop. He also notices there's a random mix of active hunters and normal civilians all thrown together. Another notification pops up saying the admin has entered the chat. Then a notice says they can no longer send messages. Cutting off the chaos mid-spam, he freaks a little, thinking the admin is here, which sounds both reassuring and terrifying. The restriction on sending messages repeats, hammering home that everyone's now just an audience. Then the admin speaks, saying they have news to announce for all challengers who completed the tutorial trial. His heart pounds and he thinks maybe they'll finally tell them how to get back to the real world. He tells himself. He has to pay attention to every single detail and focuses hard. The admin explains they will now go over how to use the points everyone earned by completing the tutorial trial. They say points can be used as common currency within the Tower of Trials, mainly through the store function. They add that you can also use the community function to give and receive points between people. Then comes the worrying part. The admin says you cannot take even a sip of water without points in the Tower of Trials. They also clarify that points can only be earned through trials, meaning there's no grinding side job, just more suffering. Our boy realizes that's the only way to get points, no freebies. He thinks that in other words, he has to do whatever it takes to get used to this tower's rules. If he can't even drink water without points, then he knows the only way to survive, the only path is to attempt the trials and earn points, no matter how dangerous. He tells himself he's so close to becoming a hunter, now all he needs to do is make it back home alive. He also gets the feeling he'll need more than just a basic sword to keep up. Now equipped with a shield, he moves with determination, thinking about how the other hunters brought here may have lost their stats, but he knows they'll be able to relearn their previous skills much faster than people like him. He acknowledges that they're not starting on a level playing field at all. He pants, and thinks that if he doesn't train like his life depends on it, he'll never be able to catch up to them. He drops down and gets to work, huffing as he pushes his body to its limits. He practices his sword swings again and again, honing his form. He notes that since the lobby constantly heals him, he can train as much as he wants without worrying about injuries piling up. He even thinks that at this rate, the next trial might actually feel easy compared to what he just went through. Our boy starts off in the lobby with his stomach growling like a pissed-off demon, wishing this magical healing room would also magically fix his hunger. Because yeah, full HP is nice, but man can't live on vibes alone. He calls up his inventory and sees the stuff he bought flashing before him, realizing he went a little shopping crazy and now only has about 40 points left to his name, like a broke gamer after a binge. He munches on some food he managed to buy and thinks that without the bonus reward from the earlier trial, he wouldn't even have had enough points to afford his shield, so that lucky drop basically saved his ass. He checks the timer and sees there are 17 minutes left until trial level 2, thinking the time flew by while he was getting ready. He remembers how there was full of people earlier shouting, panicking, and asking questions nonstop now, though it's gone deathly silent as the second trial approaches, like everyone collectively realized shit is getting real. He sighs and asks himself if he can survive this time. Then he corrects himself and says no, he has to survive no matter what, there's no other option on the menu. The system pops up a prompt asking if he'd like to take part in the level 2 trial. The options yes and no hover there, but our guy steps forward decisively, picking yes with his feet like a man signing up for pain. He's pulled in and the system announces he's entering level 2 of the Tower of Trials on hard difficulty again, because of course he's committed to suffering. The new environment rustles around him and he looks up, realizing this trial is taking place in a forest this time, not a desert. A ding hits and the tower explains that the theme of this trial is assassination. It clarifies that he must assassinate the orc chieftain within the time limit, which is a nice, simple, absolutely lethal mission description. He repeats the orc chieftain in his head, already feeling the stress creeping in. He peers through the trees and sees what looks like an orc settlement in the distance, and his brain immediately screams that this is bad news. He hears the orcs chattering and grunting, their weird chick noises echoing through the forest while they move around. He realizes he has to walk right into the middle of that army of orcs and kill their chieftain right under their noses, which is not exactly a gentle tutorial task. He remembers from hunter knowledge that if an orc settlement in a dungeon has sentries posted, that usually means they also have orc hunters among them, basically elite units. He gulps, thinking that he's not even sure he can handle a single orc hunter by himself in a fair fight, but the real problem is that there are so many orcs gathered there, including sentries and workers, and numbers are not on his side. He knows that taking down that many orcs would normally require a full party of grade E hunters, at minimum. He admits there's absolutely no way he can just charge in and do this by himself like some solo raid boss. He asks himself what he should do, recognizing that this is a tough decision. He decides he'll retreat for now and come back with a real strategy instead of just rushing in like a dumb protagonist. But as he moves, there's a rustling in the bushes that makes him freeze. He lets out a surprised sound, then catches himself as an idea comes to him in the middle of that rustle. He realizes there is one way to get through this trial despite the numbers. With a torch in hand, he starts gathering wood, thinking it's perfect and that he should be able to make plenty of firewood out of this forest. With his plan taking shape, he swallows and tests his actual theory, the kindling catching as flames begin to crackle. He shoves the torch into his inventory UI, and to his surprise, he actually works, registering it as one torch with a ding. He smirks and says it worked, his little pyromaniac heart satisfied. He thinks about orcs and notes that while they might look like lazy pigs on the outside, they're actually exceptionally hardworking creatures. He watches some of them grunt and chatter, moving around the settlement like busy, ugly little employees. He knows that hunters among the orcs always go out to hunt in the morning and don't return until sundown. He vows to overcome the main obstacle in this trial, which is his overwhelming disadvantage in numbers. He plans to overcome that disadvantage by using fire as his main weapon, not just his sword. He recalls what the Hunter Association says about orc sentries. They don't just stand guard all day when they need to eat or rest, the sentries usually go back into the settlement. He starts moving fast, flinging burning torches around, sprinting, dashing, and tossing them to spread the flames. Orc cries echo as they notice the fire, their confused grunts rising as smoke and heat spread. He keeps throwing and moving, building up a ring of fire around the whole settlement. Once the fire completely surrounds the settlement and the blaze roars, he knows he'll no longer have to worry about any orc hunters suddenly returning from the hunt and catching him off guard. Instead, they'll be cut off outside while he works inside the burning zone. He tells himself he has to take down at least 2 worker orcs before any hunters make it back. He sprints in as the orcs chitter and run around in panic, their weird chants echoing while they try to deal with the strange situation. He moves in close and strikes, stabbing one confused worker orc through the body. As the orc dies with a shocked grunt, his necromancy trait activates, offering him the chance to absorb the orc's dead spirit. He happily thinks that's more like it. The situation finally leaning in his favor, he chooses to absorb and the orc's spirit is sucked into him. The system announces he has absorbed it and that his skill level has increased by 9%. Another orc nearby makes a confused sound, noticing something is wrong. He realizes a sentry has appeared and that things just got more dangerous. The sentry attacks and he gets hit, grunting in pain. He hears a crack and quickly commands himself to absorb the spirit before things get worse. The system responds by saying his stats are being permanently increased using the absorbed dead spirit. As he scrapes himself together and recovers, the sentry seems confused as well. The system tells him his strength has increased by 4 points. It then adds that his agility has increased by 2 points. He dashes toward the orc, breathing heavily, trying to end this as quickly as possible. His skill fast kicks in, activating to help patch him up mid-mission. He pants, acknowledging that things could have gone really badly if he'd let his guard down just a little more. Another ding tells him his stats are being permanently increased again using an absorbed dead spirit. His stamina goes up by 4 points, giving him more endurance. He realizes that must have been from the sentry he took down. Then the system says his strength has increased by 2 more points and his agility increases by 3 more points on top of that. He clenches his fist and says that's great, figuring this will make things a lot easier if he ends up fighting another sentry later. The fire crackles and the settlement blazes while our bro steps forward through the burning perimeter. He walks past the flames and keeps moving. Counting his enemies, he notes that so far he's dealt with 3 workers, 1 sentry. And now there's the elderly chieftain, making 5 targets total. The orcs dash around, chittering and shouting as the fire spreads. He thinks that as long as he keeps an eye out for the sentry, the chieftain should be easy enough to kill. He watches the orcs move, their guttural sounds filling the burning air. Now that he's absorbed the sentry's spirit, he figures the remaining workers shouldn't pose any real threat to him. He slashes through them, cutting down another worker with ease. He slashes again, clearing them out one by one. Then he gets hit by an orc unexpectedly, grunting in pain with a sharp as the fight continues. A crack sounds and he realizes the sentry isn't sticking to the chieftain anymore. He guesses they've given up on guarding the leader so closely, probably distracted by the chaos. He sprints, swings, leaps, and dashes in, attacking with everything he's got. With a fierce strike, he stabs and drops the last major threat. He stands there panting over fallen bodies, breathing hard after the intense fight. The elder wastes no time casting a fireball towards our bro, which catches him off guard. He defended himself with the little shield he had, but suffered great burns and damage regardless. The elder starts celebrating early with a cheeky grin on his face. But of course, using his plot armor, our boy managed to survive that attack. Even if we can't understand this orc, just his face alone is enough. That's the look of someone who used their most op move and is spent. Yeah, he's dead. The system pings that he's unlocked an achievement called Through the Fire and Flames, which is about as on the nose as it gets. He grits his teeth as the heat stings, but the tower announces it's imbuing him with a new skill, Burn Resistance, Grade F. He glares at the surviving elder orc and tells them they're dead, pure rage behind his words. He steps forward through the flames, one determined step at a time. Not learning his lesson, the elder tries to attack just one more time. Not without getting his arm sliced off by our boy, though. The elder shouts to the top of his lungs, crying out in pain. Now fearing for his life and realizing who he's up against, he starts second-guessing his actions. He runs with his tails between his legs, back into his safe space that isn't so safe with just a piece of cloth. Our boy steps forward, making sure to take his time because he knows his prey isn't going anywhere. He slashes through the only protection the elder had with a fraction of his strength. And what he sees before his pretty blue eyes shocks our boy. We then see the elder clutching who we assume to be his kids, using the "please don't kill me, I have family and kids" to look after manipulation tactic. He sees an orc clutching another, both trembling, and realizes it looks like even orcs have loved ones they're desperate to protect. The sight briefly mirrors his own memories of being told to run and survive in his mind. He hears someone telling him to hurry, calling his name and telling him to run. The voice urges him to survive even if no one else makes it, echoing that old trauma from the dungeon break. But the sneaky orc bastard cuts off our bro's lore moment by trying a sneak attack. He tells the bastard to cut the crap, slamming away his entire skull with the hard mental hilt of the sword. He declares that he's going to kill every last one of these monsters. He dashes forward, fueled by hatred and grief. He vows that even if it's the last thing he ever does, he'll wipe them out. The system congratulates him, announcing he's completed level 2 of the Tower of Trials. He looks at his battered shield and says it's too bad he can't keep using it. He admits he owes his life to that thing after what had helped him survive. He swipes his system UI open, thinking that was another insanely close call. He checks the notifications and sees that about half of the challengers didn't make it through this trial. Dings roll in as death notices and updates flood the system. He thinks that's rough and lets out a tired breath. Then he spots a new message pop up in the community from someone saying to check it out. Only half of them are left. Another person says they used their question to find out how to go back to Earth. Our boy freezes and thinks, wait, there's actually a way to go back to Earth. He turns his attention back to the system and thinks about the information command. One of the 5 prompts they can use in the Tower of Trials. Information is explained as a function where you may submit a question that will be answered by the admin. You get the ability to submit one new question each time you reach a new level. He realizes that's where they can use the questions they're granted in this deadly game. In the community, the players came to a natural consensus that they should share whatever information they get from their questions instead of hoarding it. So far, the core of what they've learned is this. Once they reach level 5, they can purchase temporary return stones that allow them to go back to Earth for a few days from level 8 onward. They'll gain access to an expanded version of the system that includes an opportunity to buy an item that can send them back to Earth permanently. Our boy thinks that even if he has to go back, as long as he can keep his powers, he could make a name for himself as a grade A hunter on Earth. He imagines how unstoppable he would been if he'd had these powers back in the real world from the start. He scratches at the wall in frustration, mentally screaming to be sent back as he pleads to whatever system is listening. He admits he's already struggling at level 2, so level 8 feels like it's light years away. He decides he has to look on the bright side where he opens his status and notes that his stats used to be at rock bottom. But now they're approaching 20 across key areas. His current stats show strength at 18, stamina at 15, agility at 14 with a +5 modifier, and magic at 7, along with necromancy as his innate trait and skills like fast, burn resistance, and pain resistance. For now, he decides he should absorb the 5 dead spirits he captured. Since he almost died getting them in the first place, he triggers his trait, and the spirits swirl around him in a rush. After absorbing them, he checks his status again and sees his strength has jumped to 27, stamina to 25, agility to 28 with the modifier, and magic to 13 with the same trait and skills. He feels the raw power coursing through his body and is almost shocked by it. He bursts out laughing, saying it's overwhelming in the best way. He relishes the sensation, and thinks this is how it feels to finally be strong. He declares he's finally surpassed human limits, and feels like a true monster in human skin. Now he sprints forward to test his new strength and speed, energy exploding off him. Then he misjudges his new power, yelps and screeches to a stop. He crashes into something, slamming hard because his body isn't used to moving like this yet. He wipes his face and laughs, admitting he's made such quick progress that his body can't quite keep up for now. He calls for the store function to open. The system chimes as he browses and makes a purchase. He buys a deadwood shield with a D grade, and the system says 2,100 points will be deducted from his account. The item description pops up, explaining that the deadwood shield is crafted by a black mage using timber from an enormous dead tree, and that it activates a buff when he loses health. He says it's about time he used the reward items he got from the other trials. Instead of just hoarding them like a scared dragon, he pulls out the black steel dagger with E+ rank, which increases reaction speed and attack speed, and is made from dark magic-imbued steel. Then he equips the assassin's cloak at D rank, which reduces all sensory traces and boosts agility by 5 if it's under 50. The cloak's magic effect also increases movement speed by 15% for a minute, though it comes with a 24-hour. He feels all his new gear and stats coming together and takes a breath of relief. He promises himself he's going to make sure he's mastered his new items and boosted stats before the next trial. He adds that's not all. He intends to become stronger than anyone could ever dream of. The system dings and the next step begins as he's pulled into level 3 of the Tower of Trials again. The system confirms he's on hard difficulty. As always this time, the theme of the trial is duel. He looks around and wonders if this place is a cave, judging by the darkness and echoing space. A countdown starts telling him that in 10 seconds the Guardian of Darkness will appear. He thinks there's no telling where it might attack from, just like the sand golem, so he needs to get ready for an ambush. The timer ticks down to 3 seconds, then 1. The Guardian of Darkness appears. It immediately lunges and stabs at him, catching him hard enough to make him groan in pain. The system states he must defeat the doppelganger, the Guardian of Darkness, to clear this duel. His fast skill activates again, burning through the pain and starting to repair the damage. He realizes that if he hadn't turned away at the last second, that strike would probably severed his spine. He suddenly recognizes the stance the enemy is using. He wonders if it's imitating him. His heart pounds as he realizes what that might mean. He decides there's only one way to find out and lunges in to test it. They collide with a booming impact, steel and strength clashing. They both hit the ground in a messy tangle, blood splattering. Our boy lands a nice decent hit, which causes the monster to splatter blood everywhere. But this is hard difficulty, so we all know this monster isn't finished. The venom-like monster stands there unfazed and looks to be regenerating, just like our boy can. He laughs breathlessly and notes that the skill seems to be standard on both sides. Then the monster surges with energy, charging in again, but this time copying our bro's exact move he just did. He confirms his suspicion, this monster is copying his every move. If that's the case, he figures he has the upper hand, because he knows exactly how to counter his own techniques. He leaps and clashes blades with it, sparks flying. They trade multiple blows, clang after clang ringing through the cave. He thinks good just like that, trying to bait the thing into familiar patterns. But seconds later, he comes face to face with the monster's blade. He manages to swing his sword and blocks the attack just barely. He frowns and asks himself what that was, confusion running through him. They clash again and another strange exchange happens. He realizes that wasn't just coincidence. He grits his teeth as it lands a hit, and he groans in pain. He realizes that even though they've only been fighting a little while, the doppelganger is already evolving. The ground rumbles as the intensity rises, and he activates the assassin's cloak's movement skill. The system announces his movement speed has increased by 15%. He pants, knowing he can't let this fight drag on too long. He decides he needs to end this in under a minute before the thing adapts further. The timer shows the skill effect has 59 seconds remaining. He bursts forward with a rush of speed. Blood spurts as he manages to dodge the monster's solid hit, and with a nice little kick to throw the monster's balance off and get rid of his shield. He strikes again with a heavy blow, making solid contact. He drives in a stab, pushing through the creature's guard. He says it worked, panting hard. But before he can celebrate any longer, our guy gets his entire arm sliced off clean in half. Our boy can't even process what just opened and can only groan in pain. As blood spurts from his arm, he lets out a deafening scream in agony. Despite everything, he tells himself it's not over yet and orders his brain to stay focused. He breathes hard and watches carefully, then he notices something: the monster isn't moving. He realizes that even though it has on its side, it seems to need time to recover after his last attack. He thinks this is his chance to kill it. He curses that if only he still had his sword in hand, he could finish it cleanly. The skill effect shows 11 seconds of movement speed boost remaining. His shield clinks as he prepares his next move. He admits that he could just be grasping at straws here. But he decides it's better to be bold than to just stand around and wait to die. He presses his attack and unleashes a risky explosive move like a tanker in RPG games. As he closes in at full speed, the monster finally finishes recovering, preparing to swing his sword. But our bro stands 10 toes down, not backing away and sending it full throttle. There's a massive impact and blood spurts as his gamble pays off. His shield crushes this monster's entire rib cage and organs. The impact's so strong, sending him flying and flopping around everywhere just before crashing into the ground. It screeches as its body stretches and contorts in its death throes. It lets out one final broken noise before falling apart, barely hanging on. He stands there huffing, completely exhausted. But he's not done. He raises his shield, making sure to pay back what the monster did to his arm. With pure bloodlust, he looks down at it and says, "Now die." He finishes it, and the monster finally slumps down for good. The only thing filling the cave is blood splatter and the crunches of bones breaking. With the monster now beheaded, the system chimes and congratulates him, declaring he has completed level 3 of the Tower of Trials.